How do you modulate the energy in your voice when giving a speech or presentation?
Speaking, the show about effective speaking in public, to the media, at work, and in life. Speaking with T.J. Walker.
This question comes from one of my online students on the Udemy platform. Alina writes in, TJ, I find it very difficult to know how to modulate my energy when I speak. Does it come with practice? For example, if I speak to a large crowd, to me it feels almost like a theater performance. And so I literally put on a show to get everyone engaged and interested. When I then have a training for a small group of people, I tend to bring the same level of energy to the small room, and I guess that's not the way to do it, is it? From what I hear from some of my close friends who saw me presenting to small groups, they say I need to modulate my energy as it is far too big for a small crowd. Oh dear, I'm lost. Well, Alina, it sounds like you're a pretty seasoned presenter anyway, and I'm very, very happy to hear that you're getting feedback from your colleagues, especially the occasional negative feedback, because that is extremely helpful. First of all, let's back up for a moment. Everyone's different, but by far the most common problem people have with energy and modulating their voice is they get nervous, and when they get nervous, they shrink. It's not your problem of being too big for the audience, it's that they shrink up, their energy goes down, their volume goes down, and it makes them flat, monotone, and they seem scared. And they might be scared. It makes them seem nervous and uncomfortable. So that's the biggest problem. You mentioned in an earlier part of your question, does it come with practice? Yes, it does come with practice, but with a caveat. You need to watch video of yourself, not only practicing, but speaking in the venue, in front of live people. When I started this business back in 1984 in my first training, it wasn't very practical to tell people, videotape every speech you do. These days, you have to be incredibly lazy not to do it because everyone has video cameras everywhere, your cell phone. So my recommendation, even if you just prop it up in the back of the room and it doesn't even get all of your head in the video, record every speech you do. And if you are, for example, giving a training in front of a small group of people, put it in the back so you can see the audience and you can see how they're responding to you and get a sense. If they are constantly pulling back and putting their fingers in their ears because you're screaming at them, well, that's a problem and you need to take note of that. I would really caution you about overcorrecting because sometimes people's energy level feels high. And then they take it down a couple of notches, but they've taken it down so much they now seem flat, bored, boring, uninterested, and almost mumbling. So be very, very careful about that. More tips on energy for your voice and modulation in just a moment.
Do you have a speaking-related question for #1 USA Today best-selling author T.J. Walker? For more than 30 years, Walker has been a public speaking coach and media trainer to presidents of countries, prime ministers, CEOs, Nobel Peace Prize winners, professional athletes, and Miss Universes. Send your questions to info@mediatrainingworldwide.com or on Twitter @TJWalker.
You mentioned that you have big energy for a big room. That's good. I want to caution you though. A lot of times people are in a big room, let's say a big hotel or conference, and there's 500,000 or more people in the room. On the one hand, you want your hand gestures to be a little bigger, especially if you're walking around. You want to pause a little bit longer. But you don't necessarily want to yell. The problem some politicians have and I'm not going to mention their name, but it's males and females in both parties, both major U.S. parties. Forgive my narrow U.S. references, those of you listening in other countries, is a problem that does affect people everywhere, frankly, that they're in a large room, so they start to yell, they're projecting their voice so people can hear a long way off. The problem is you're making yourself a particular type of monotone if you yell consistently, if you have a higher volume that's consistent. And if you have a microphone on, you don't need to yell. People can hear you. Like right now, none of you are in the same room with me, but I don't have to yell because I have a microphone on. If you need more volume, you can simply adjust the volume on your end. If you're speaking in a large venue where people are in the room with you, chances are you're going to have a microphone and speaker. There are these in-between zones. Let's say you're doing a training or some kind of a conference, and there are 80 people in the room, and the room is 60 feet by 50 feet. You might not have a microphone. You might not have speakers. In that case, you do want to project. You do want more energy and more volume than usual, especially if it's a relatively brief presentation. If you do that too long, you're going to wear yourself out. You'll do damage to your vocal cords as well. So you've got to look at every situation independently. Practice, but practice on video. I'm going to make a wild assessment here, Alina, that is experienced as you are and as professional as you are, you're not necessarily practicing on video. You need to know exactly how you're coming across. Not just audio, too. You need to see if you're way too animated and way too energetic. That can seem weird to people. I have to tell you, that's a pretty rare problem to have. The far more common problem is too low energy, too flat, too boring, too monotone. I'll never forget, though, and forgive me because I know I've mentioned this in the last month, but I was in someone's home. It was a business situation. They were giving me a client presentation. I had one other work colleague with me. We were sitting on the guy's couch, and he showed a PowerPoint presentation. This is related to book publishing. And he gave a speech as if he were on a stage in front of 5,000 people. And he had gigantic arm gestures, and he's 2 feet away from us in his living room. He's practically yelling over the volume of music clips that he had in his PowerPoint presentation, which frankly were totally irrelevant to anything. And it was the most wildly out of sync thing I've ever seen. I frankly thought it was an awful presentation, and I could tell he thought it was fantastic. And I do think for some audience, if he'd been in a room with 1,000 people or 500 people and he did it exactly the same way, that many people would have taken away a positive sense of what it was about. Many people would have given him high marks as a presenter. But when he's standing in front of 2 people who are sitting in front of him 2 feet away, it was awful. My final bit of recommendation for you, Alina, is, I stressed it earlier, I'll stress it again. Don't guess. Don't wonder. And I appreciate you writing to me, but I can't help you nearly as much as you can help yourself simply by studying the video of how you came across when you actually gave the speech. And if you want to take it up a notch, ask a friend to hold a cell phone or even bring a camcorder on a tripod. I mean, camcorders are really cheap these days. Tripods are $20. And that way the person could actually scan the audience occasionally, get a few different angles. Watch the video. One of the reasons why I'm really comfortable when I speak is I've seen a tremendous number of my own speeches. So I know how I'm coming across. Am I the best speaker in the world? No. Do I get a wonderful standing ovation every single time? No. But I'm pretty sure there's no problem with my voice energy modulation, because I've seen exactly how I come across in front of large audiences and small audiences. Do I watch every single video of every single speech? No, but I've watched a huge percentage of them, and at this point I've watched countless speeches. So I know how I'm coming across. I know how I'm coming across in real time because I've seen it on video so many times. So that's really my recommendation for you. Practice on video before the speech. Then have your speech videotaped and analyze it carefully. Continue to ask feedback from friends and colleagues, but really judge for yourself too by watching. I'm TJ Walker. Thanks for joining me today. May all of your presentations in life be a huge success.
Speaking with TJ Walker is the #1 rated daily streaming TV and radio show devoted to all aspects of speaking and communication. If you received value from this show, then please subscribe to it at MediaTrainingWorldwide.com. Please review the show, leave comments, and share it with your friends and colleagues today.